Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Well, will America fall? That's what we'll talk about today. Um, and I think probably everybody has their own opinion of that. I think that there's a good chance that the America that we know is going to fall. Now, what happens after that? I think that's the question. Uh, By the way, get yourself. It's a chilly morning, and it's my kind of weather. It's almost time to switch over to my felt hat, but it's going to be 85 degrees later today, so I don't want to be switching hats back and forth all day long. So get yourself something warm to drink. Oh, by the way, these shop placement is everything. You guys seen this? I think most of you have. We have had so many orders for this. I think this might be our top seller. These are all being printed this week and shipped out this week. This one is the first one that is also available in a set of 4. And we've had so many people. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I told them to make them because we've had a lot of people order the whole sets. And you can get that, if you don't know, you can get it through our website. And the link is down below. stonemont.us is where you can buy all my books and mugs and shirts and stuff like that. But this is just flying off the shelves. And over here we have the 40 Smith & Wesson, the 357 Mag, the 45 ACP, and the 10 mil. Because shop placement isn't everything, but it's important. So grab a drink and let's talk about, will America fall? And of course, coming up on this election, everybody's concerned about what's going to happen. And we know that there is a big difference. I said the other day that I think this is probably the most consequential election of my lifetime, and I started voting for, wow, when did I vote? Well, I don't know, it's been a long time, back in the early 70s. I think Carter was my second vote. Yes, I know. I was a Democrat back then before I started paying attention. And I believe, was it Hubert Humphrey that ran before him? I don't remember. It doesn't matter, but, whatever. But I've watched the elections for a long time, and I think this is the most consequential. We have a chance. If Trump gets in, he's not going to solve all the problems. He can't solve all the problems. It's impossible to solve all of the problems this country has. But he'll probably do some good things like he did last time, and it will slow down the collapse anyway. Now, do I think that the problems could be solved long term? I mean, we hope, but hope, like I say, hope's cheap. Indulge yourself, but it feels good for a while. But we've been sliding toward Gomorrah. Who was the judge that wrote that book, Slouching Toward Gomorrah? We've been slouching toward Gomorrah for too long, really, to I think, to turn this around much. The question is, what happens and what comes out of this election? Yeah, like I say, if Trump does win, well, it's going to be a little bit better for a little while. But if Harris wins, it's gonna, what we have today, we're gonna wish for these days. We're gonna look at the Biden years as the good old days, because it's gonna go off the cliff into it's sliding towards communism. We are crawling towards communism. If she gets in, and I mean full communism, if she gets in, we're going to be sprinting toward it. So, is that the fall of America? Yes, in my opinion, it is the fall of America. Now, the country will go on being named the United States of America, but America as a concept, as a mindset, as a common, if we ever did have a common culture, will be over. Many years ago, my son said, so my second son, we were down at the lake, down at the cabin, and went out on the went out on the deck. It was at night, and he had to be about second grade maybe. And I was out on the deck looking at the lake and the stars, and he came out there, stood next to me, and we just stood there for a couple of minutes in the quiet. And all of a sudden, he said something that I will never forget. And I've mentioned it many times. He says, "I think I see America." And, I don't know what he meant in his second grade mind, but man, it just hit me like, what? And so I said, "Where?" And he pointed at a little light. There was another cabin over on the next hill. A little light on over there. And he says, "Right there." And I thought about that. And I've thought about it often since, as you can tell, since I still remember it. And he's in high school now. And it was just so deep. And I think that's kind of a... I've been thinking about writing a book on it, to be honest. By the way, I'm writing a mafia book right now, organized crime book. Maybe I'll get around to talking about that. I just talked about it on the Patreon channel, where I talked about building communities. And if you're not with us on the Patreon, I made an announcement the other day. I'm going to kind of slow down on the YouTube channel, what I put on here, because it's just getting difficult to keep up with all the silly comments and taking them off and everything. And I don't like the comment section to be cluttered with asininity. I don't get that many, we've got some trolls. I don't get that many mean comments, but I do just get some silly comments that, I read them and I can't tell what the person is trying to say. And I don't like that. And, if I have a party at my house and somebody's coming over and acting all, like a goober, and nobody, it's just kind of messing up the whole, the whole thing. I don't invite them back. Excuse me, just a second. Okay, I had to pause you for a second because the trash truck was going past the street. Didn't figure you wanted to hear that. I'll probably have to pause you again in a minute when they come up my street. But I just like to keep the comment section nice and clean and so enjoyable for everybody. And it's just getting tough as we get more people. There's more silliness. And so I'm probably going to kind of restrict what I put on YouTube and just put a lot more on Patreon. So join us. You'd love it. It's only $1 a month. Come on over. But, my son's comment about "I think I see America," it meant a lot. And I kind of think about it when I think about what's going to happen to America. Is America going to fall? And then what does it look like when that happens? Well, I think that it would be hard to argue that America is not falling and falling fast. And I think it's going to be difficult to stop, which means it's going to continue to fall. So what happens when it hits the bottom? Well, I think that it's kind of be like what my son said. I think you might have your little piece of America that you've built with your family and your friends and your group. We're doing things the right way. And I don't think I finished what I was talking about, the organized crime, but maybe I'll get back to it. Maybe not. And so you'll have if you're able to keep yours together through your preparedness and being able to operate outside the system. And that's a lot of what I'm talking about in the organized crime book, working outside the system. And then there will be others that will also do that. You're not going to be surrounded by America the way America was anymore. You're going to have your America. Wow, we got a lot going on here. We got somebody, I guess, putting on a new roof, so that truck's coming in. Well, anyway, you're going to have what you have built and what you have preserved for, living the way you believe, and you're going to have somebody else over there doing it, and you're not going to have somebody else over there doing it. But most of the people, I think, they're just go along to get alongs, and they're gonna ride this hog down into the ditch. and it's going to make it very difficult for the rest of us. Now, difficult, okay, we've dealt with difficult things, right? You've probably dealt with difficult things. I certainly have. And I don't let it destroy me. I don't let it get me all upset. I just say, well, okay, here's what we have to deal with now. How are we going to deal with it? And now let's get on and deal with it, right? And many times these challenges can bring out in people, in ourselves, in others, in situations, things that we may not have developed when times were better. And so in that case, you can look at them as, a growth experience, a learning experience, a developmental experience. And maybe that's how we prepare ourselves to come back and take things back. But you'll have your America if you keep it. And then you'll see another light on another hill. And they will have their America. And we'll see a bunch of those, I think. I keep checking to see if the truck's ready to come up here. And all the time surrounded by what used to be America. There'll be millions of them. They will outnumber us maybe 100 to 1, maybe more. I don't know. But whether you allow yourself to fall is up to you. You can't save this country. I can't save this country. Only God himself can save this country. And you all are probably familiar with the verse that says, if my people who are called by my name, right? And it says, turn away from your sins. Turn away. Turn back to me and I will heal your land. That's not a literal quote of it, but that's what it says. Only God himself can save this country. Whether he will, I have my doubts. Like Jefferson said, he says, man, and here also is not going to be a literal quote, but he says something like, I shudder for my country when I realize that God is just and his patience cannot last forever. So, will God save the country? Will he destroy it because we as a country have turned against him? Who knows? But if we hold to him, he will sustain us, and as a result of that, he will help us sustain those things that perhaps will be the seeds of a reversion, the name of my first book, a revival, the name of my second book, a renewal, the name of my third book, an appeal to heaven, the name of my fourth book. I guess I could go on like this, right? And to eventually we will come back to kind of be like my latest book, On Wings Like Eagles. Will you be able to sustain yourself? Whatever happens to this country during the fall of America, how will you be able to sustain yourself? I think that a lot of people won't be able to. Even a lot of people who are interested in preparedness won't be able to, because they won't understand the almost omnifaceted situation. They won't realize, how many things go into the fall of a country, and what you have to do to be prepared, and what you have to do for the person who will come on and say, well, you just talked a lot about nothing and didn't tell me what to do. Well, the first thing you need to do is think for yourself. And then you need to be, and don't look to me or anybody else on YouTube for all the answers for your life. You are responsible for your life. That is the bedrock of preparedness. As I say, preparedness is responsibility. It's the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate irresponsibility. And the responsibility for me and my house is on me, and the responsibility for you and your house is on you. And you have to decide what it's going to take. Okay, I'm going to have to pause you again in a minute. We got my trash truck coming up the street. You are going to have to determine what it's going to take for you to be able to remain independent of a collapsing system. Therefore, to be able to continue to live your life the way you feel life ought to be lived. And yes, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. I would encourage you to, even though this, you might be surprised, and I'll just say, I'll be back with you. Okay, that was just our trash guys coming by picking up. Those are hard-working guys. They are great guys too. We have just a great company that does it. Great guys who come past here, friendly. We have a guy on the Patreon channel who is a trash guy up in Michigan. One of our great patrons. Morning, buddy. So it's interesting that even though my organized crime book is, you might think of as a mafia book, it's really a preparedness book because it's going to show people how to prepare to live under oppression, how to live separate from the system. And that's really what you need to be able to do in order to be prepared. And that doesn't mean you go out and, commit crimes and things like that. It means that you develop a parallel life, a parallel way to be able to sustain yourself, even under a system that is trying to destroy you. And I know a lot of people, well, they'll come on here and they'll say, well, that can't be done. And I'll say, yes, it can. And they'll say, well, you didn't tell us how to do it. And I'll say, well, you got to figure that out for yourself. But what I do is I come on and I tell you, you've got to do it. I'm going to tell you you've got to do it, and I'm going to tell you it can be done. Okay, if somebody just gives you all the answers, they're their answers, not your answers, and you're the one that has to be able to prepare and to fix yourself up to live well under a collapsing system. So we see the signs of the collapse, the fall all around us. We see the economy collapsing. We see the political system, and finally, people are seeing how deep the corruption is in the political system. We see the world, right? The global situation. First off, the global corruption, but then the global chaos. And when you combine chaos with corruption, you don't have a recipe for much good. But you can recognize that it's going on around you and say, I've got to do something to separate myself from what's going on around me and to separate myself, to protect myself from the consequences of this whole thing falling down. If you're in a building, you're in your house, and it starts to fall down, I hope you don't live in a house that's falling down, but if you live in a house and it starts to collapse around you, what's the thing you do? You get out of the house, right? You don't stay in the house and say, this whole thing's collapsing. Now, I guess you could, but then you'll be dead, right? So you get out of the house. But where am I to go? Well, that's for you to figure out, right? There's a lot of places for you to go. You build a new house, you go somewhere else, and you build something new, right? Or you find something that's already built, and you go something away from the danger. You understand what I'm saying? But it is up to you to decide what you need to do. And the first step of that is realizing you need to do it. Okay, like the first step of solving any problem, understanding there is a problem, and then the second step is identifying what the problem is. As soon as you've done that, now you're on the road to being able to solve the problem, or at least separate yourself from the consequences of the problem. Okay. All right. Well, it's going to be really interesting to see what's coming, isn't it? I'll be honest. It doesn't worry me. It doesn't scare me. It's going to be really interesting. Really interesting. And it's going to be a challenge. I love challenges. And probably a lot of you do too. And it's going to be interesting to see if we can see America on the other side of what's coming. All right? Think about this. Decide what you're going to do. Keep your group tight. and realize that shot placement is almost everything, but not everything. Part of it's having a big enough gun, right? Hey, you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Come join us on Patreon if you'd like. I put a lot more stuff over there. The link is down below. Visit us on our website, stonemont.us. You can buy the mugs, my books, t-shirts, all sorts of things. And I'm going to spend, I think I may be caught up today on the book. I'm going to spend the day signing the rest of the books and shipping them out, and I might be caught up with all the book sales. But you can, if you don't want to wait to get them from me signed, you can buy them through Amazon. That link is also down below. So you all have a good day. Think about it. Make sure that you're doing what you can so that you're going to have your America on the other side of whatever this collapse is going to be. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.